What's going on?
Awesome. So thanks again so much for making the time to hop on this. I'm sure you're very busy. I've been a long time fan now, especially of all your philosophy behind like creative work and how to work with clients. My brother is in digital media at U of H in Houston, and I send him your posts all the time. I myself graduated from film school at UT. And even though it's different fields, a lot of what you say applies to creative fields in general. And that's why I think that anybody could definitely gain a lot from following you and learning about your story, and also just getting inspiration from your work. Honestly, like your stuff is really cool. You've made a lot of logos. So I kind of want to just start off with honestly, why logos? Like why did you decide to do logo work?
That's a fucking good question. I think logos chose me, really, ultimately. So I was always creative, like growing up as a kid. I was always drawing. I was never particularly, I would classify as school bright, like school clever. So I wasn't very good at maths. I wasn't very good at English. Not very good at sciences, but I was quite sporty. And I also really enjoyed art. I was never like the best at art or design, but it was the classroom I quite enjoyed being in. I felt like I could at least get involved. Do you know what I mean? Rather than being at the bottom of the class. So long story short, yeah, always was creative. Went to college, creativity, did a design degree. This is after I got kicked out of school and all the rest of it. I don't know how dark and deep you want to get, but we can
No, that's okay. I mean, what school were you kicked out of? Like grade school? Was this
Yes.
college?
Yeah, so just before my A levels, so I would have been 17. So we kind of go like prep school, then secondary school, and then from secondary school you go to like university. So I don't high school, would that be for you? I'm not too sure. I don't you go to
Yeah.
college, don't college, isn't it? Basically,
Yeah,
I think
that's
for you.
college.
Yeah, so just before my A levels, I got kicked out basically for drugs and stealing and being a bit of a twat, to be fair, and went off the rails. I mean, you'll know this if you follow me,
Right.
So yeah, big drug problem, all the rest of it up until my early 20s, and when I started to sort my life out. So yeah, I went to
That's
college.
awesome that you did.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. You look back on it now and you think, what an idiot. But I think sometimes I'm just glad like you say, got out of it, because I know a lot of people don't. So I can't change it, but I can change what I do
Hmm.
tomorrow. So that's kind of what my philosophy is now. Try and just be a little bit better every day. So yeah, I kind of went to uni. Didn't do a lot in uni, but while I was at uni, I actually ended up getting a graphic design job.
Hmm.
And this was after. So I actually went before that, when did like an art foundation. I don't know if you
Hmm.
have that over there. Basically, it's like a year's college, year's course where you do everything like graphic design, fine art, sculpture, life drawing, textiles. And after that, my teacher told me to do graphic design. I didn't have a clue what graphic design was. So he said, do that. So I was like, okay, I don't know what else I'm going to do. So I'll do that. And then, yeah,
Yeah.
got myself into uni, got myself into an agency job, and then started my own agency, Baby Giant, like about 11, 12 years ago now. I think we've just done year 11 books. And that's been growing. And I think like I did everything. So me and my business partner started Baby Giant. We did everything, and we still do. We do SEO, we do email marketing, we do web design, web development, brand identity, logos, and all the rest of it. But like 5 years ago, roughly, time just goes so quick. With all this COVID stuff now, I just don't have a clue where we are. But roughly 5 years ago, I kind of started Made.By.James, this one, and that was purely just out of I just started sharing my work. I read Austin Kleon's Show Your Work, and then the next day I started sharing my work, and it just kind of grew and grew. And at that stage, I was still just kind of maybe doing
Hmm.
2, 3 logos a year. But what basically, to kind of answer your question, like I just because I did everything in design,
Right.
I was not in a niche whatsoever. Graphic design was my niche, So
Right. It's such a broad field.
yeah, so I did web, I did animation, I was doing photography, I was doing magazine layout, email marketing, web, web design, app development, basically anything that you think of, I probably did some of it. But I always really enjoyed whenever it came about, which wasn't super often a decade ago. I really liked logo design.
Do you still do everything, or are
no,
you
no,
you're
I
just
say
focused on
yes,
this?
yes. I would say I'm fully niched in brand identity now and logo
Right.
design. But obviously, I own an agency, so I'll still dip into, like laying out some magazines, or I'll still dip into like front page web development, like the visual side of it, the creative side of it. I always like say, like, I do everything you see and my business partner does everything you can't see. So all the clever coding stuff he does, and I do all the pretty stuff. But he basically takes control of everything else now, and because we've got an animator on board, we've got I've got a PA, a virtual PA, who sorts all my stuff out, like this call with you, and
Yeah.
we've got an accountant, I've got an intern who helps us with like menial tasks.
It's a whole agency.
Like it's a boutique. I would say a boutique agency, because we're kind of under 5 people, but we churn out some good stuff. But I've now the point of it is that it allows me, all these other cogs allow me to focus on obviously bringing work into the agency, which is, and Made.By.James is quite a good funnel for that. It's just started off. I just shared some logos, shared some sketches, shared some process, and I've been doing that consistently for like 2,000 posts over the last 5 years. And now got a book out. And all
That's
sorts.
Awesome. I'm waiting for that.
Cool.
That's exciting.
Yeah, so it's basically, I've just started signing all the signed copies. So these are about to go all out the door. And I think, like online, like as of like the 25th of Jan, which is next week, it's released. It was supposed to be in November, but shipping, supply chains, China, where it gets printed from the publisher, and all the rest of it is kind of delayed it a bit, which is a little annoying, but there are people well worse off than me, so I'm not going.
What are you hoping is a kind of a takeaway from anybody who reads your book?
It's basically everything in there. I'd like to call it like your best friend in the good times and the bad. Every question I've ever been. It's not a self-promotional book. There's obviously a little bit of background about like what I've said, like how I grew up, my road into design, but I've answered every single question that I've ever been asked on social media, through Made.By.James and brands, like how to get clients, how to define your style, how to come up with ideas, so basically any questions that I've been asked, I've tried to answer. So what I would like to say is, like, if you're struggling with to come up with ideas, I've got some cool techniques on how to come up with ideas. If you're thinking, I haven't got any clients this month, you can go in there and break down on like how you can up your client game. So obviously I've only allowed 30,000 words, but I've tried to kind of give little tips and tricks on. So basically it's the book that I wanted when I was growing up in the design industry, when I was like, what the hell do I do? Where do I go? What should I do? That book it's in that book in some detail. So that's what's the most exciting for me, is kind of like that's my little gift to people,
it's awesome. Honestly, I'm really excited for it. You touched on a lot of things there.
Yeah, don't worry. Don't worry. I mean, if you want to go longer than half an hour, that's absolutely fine, because there's probably all sorts we can chat about.
Yeah, I won't keep you too long. I definitely want to respect your time, but thank you so much for that. That's awesome. I'm going to touch just up on a couple of things that you had mentioned. You said that, once, I guess you didn't pick your niche until after you'd had your agency. Is that correct? How did you narrow it down to something that you love?
It's I suppose that kind of I kind of went off that topic a little bit, just jibber jabbering, didn't I? But my kind of, I like to say, is like my niche. Your niche tends to choose you, and the reason I say that, it's not like logo design came to me and said, you're going to do logo design. Like obviously through decades of work within the industry, within the design world, you know, as you kind of move forward in your career, there are things that stand out more than others, that you naturally gravitate to. And logo design was one of those things for me. And I always love telling stories. And like my theory is, you know, something doesn't have to be detailed to contain detail. So I love the idea of creating something so minimal that will work, you know, this big, but tells you a story. And I found it fascinating how people did that. And now that's something that I do every day. So like I said, it wasn't like a random decision. Like, I mean, obviously when you niche down into any particular niche or niche, I don't know. I mean, it's all different, isn't it? We say
niche.
We say niche. So, but obviously when, you know, it is a bit of a risk, you know, it's one of those things that you've got to, you know, fully commit to. So luckily it worked out for me. That's
awesome.
You know, that is but it's not through lack of, you know, there were tough times. There were times where I thought, have I made the right decision? But at no point did I ever want to stop. And I think
let's say when did you feel like you did make the right decision? When do you feel like have you yet felt like, you know, this is where I was supposed to be. This is where I'm meant to be.
I mean, no, I mean, it's a different, to put my finger on it. I mean, there are moments like obviously bringing out a book on logo design is pretty kind of pivotal. It's quite a peak for me. It was always a dream. I never thought it would happen, but it's happened a lot earlier than I expected it to. So
moved, like you said, from influencer to expert.
yeah. I mean, it happens quick. But you know, I think what gravitates people towards me is that I never claim to be an expert. You know, I'm still learning. I've got loads to. I'm not even halfway through my career yet. So, you know, I would say I know what I'm doing, but I would say I'm far from like the best or the expert. And I think as soon as you think you're the best anyway, you may as well stop anyway. So, but like for me, you know, so that was quite a big point. That was kind of like, you know, all those years, all those logos, all that talking about logos and that niching down, you know, you made the right decision. The book was a bit of a pat on the back for that, but also, you know, just being busy, you know, having clients who love my work. I mean, that's when I also know that, you know, I made the right decision because I don't get bored. I do a lot of logos and I don't get bored. And I think that's pretty cool. I'm kind of living my dream, which is awesome. So I think just being busy, being able to pay the bills, and I think the kind of cherry on the top is actually physically having a book that other people are learning from with reference to my logo process, I think is pretty cool.
Speaking of logos, what is that? What's that on your hat there?
Oh, this is from my buddy. It just says Humankind. So this is from my buddy Tinlin Studios. You can find him on Instagram. He's all over the place. But he sent me one of his hats, so I wear his hat, and I like it.
Yeah, it's great. Cool. I just wanted to find out a little bit about that. You had mentioned about the team. How big is the team now? And when do you think it's a good time for somebody who's maybe getting some success and starting to feel good on their journey? When is it a good time to, you know, start delegating some work out and to move away from, you know, trying to do everything themselves?
Well, I think it's when you physically can't do it anymore. You know, me and AD did it by ourselves for a long, long time, even our own accounts, our filing, all of that stuff. So I think there just comes a point where it's cheaper to hire somebody to do it than for you to spend your time doing it. You know, my time is much better given towards me doing logos all the time because the money is very good. There's no point me doing, you know, accounts, which I'm rubbish at. I already told you I'm crap at maths. So I think it's just, there just becomes a point where it's, you know, I, as a control freak and as somebody who is holds his circle very kind of sacred. I don't trust a lot of people. I don't really like to farm stuff out too much. But the funny thing is, the more I let go of the stuff that I don't need to be doing, the more money I make. It's like this weird thing where you think, you kind of think, well, I'm going to have to pay for that. I'm going to have to pay for that. And is it worth it? I'll just do it myself, yada, yada, yada. But when you add up all that time, also if you're creating all day, do you want to be doing your tax return? Do you want to be collecting all the receipts and sending them to the accountant? When you can pay somebody probably a fifth of your hourly rate or whatever your hourly rate works out to. If we're, obviously I'm not necessarily on a hourly rate. I know what I would like to make. I know what I generally make an hour, but it's kind of based on a value thing. But, it's much cheaper for me to pay somebody X amount for a couple of hours work rather than me spend a couple of hours doing it, because I'm not doing the more higher priced stuff. So, I think there just comes a time where you're like, I need help. And that is the point when you do it. If you think, and it's usually as soon as you think I need help, you usually spend another 6 months doing it yourself, and then you do it again. So as soon as you think it, just do it, because you end up just wasting time otherwise.
That's definitely a good answer. I know that personally, I've gone through kind of what you're saying is that, I just want to do everything myself. And then I end up not having enough time to do the parts of it that I really enjoy. And then it feels more like a job. Obviously it is a job, but it feels more like a job you don't enjoy.
We can't wear every single hat. I would never, even like if you break that down slightly, I would never tell AD how to build a website, even though I've built websites. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's important to, wear the hat that you're supposed to and excel in that particular hat, and allow the other people to excel. If you can build a team that you trust and that are all doing their bit, you've got a well-oiled machine there. And like you say, I don't want to, if I did everything, I'd be working 24 hours a day. When would I sleep? When would when would I give my brain a rest to do all the other good work? Important to delegate for sure.
Let's take it back a little bit in the process. Can you tell me about your first client? Like, who was your first client, and what all did you work for? Because I know you said you did other things other than just logo. Like, what was your first client like? And what did you do for them? And was it under the Baby Giant name? Was it under yourself?
Yeah. So everything is, so my very, very, very first client it was probably before the agency I worked at before Baby Giant. I started an agency called Point Nine Design. Very cool name, huh? With my buddy Charlie, when I was kind of in college. And we did maybe 4 or 5 projects made absolutely no money, and folded the business pretty soon after that. But those are probably one of my first clients, is like flyers and business cards and little brochures. Those were kind of
why do you think it didn't work out? Why do you think it folded?
Because I didn't put any effort in. Maybe it wasn't what I wanted at that particular time. At that time, I was thinking about, I was going to be a teacher. I've done tattoo apprenticeship. I've worked in factories. I've worked basically everything from the age of about 16 to 20. I probably had about 10 or 12 different jobs. I started random t-shirt businesses, but obviously never stuck at anything long enough. But I think I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and then just started to focus on graphic design. And now we're here. So
what made the start of Baby Giant different from Point Nine?
I was a bit older. I'd obviously had proper agency experience then, so I knew the industry. I didn't know the industry. I knew it better than I did before. I watched and learned how to price stuff. I was in meetings a lot. I did a lot of the work. And I think once you kind of get into that vibe, you're like, well, I'm getting paid X, but I know that project cost X. X, 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 and I'm only getting paid X, even though I'm doing all the work. So after leaving the agency, it was kind of, there was like this kind of moment where it's like, it's either get another job at another agency. I was 27 at the time. So it's either get another job at another agency or try and start our own thing. So it was kind of very much this. I was even going for like job interviews at other agencies and stuff like that. But yeah, we just decided to combine forces, and we kind of said to each other, like, let's give it 2 years. Let's just give it 2 years, whatever happens. Yeah, and now we're year 12. So
that's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. But it hasn't been. It's not easy. You know, we didn't make any money really for the first 3 years or so. We got by, but you know, we weren't doing anything like crazy.
Your goal was 2 years, and you said you like didn't make as much money as maybe you had hoped you would be making in it until 3 years. Yeah. What made you keep going after that second year? What was going right? What was going wrong?
I think it was basically, you know, one client turns into two to four, 4 to 8, and you know, when we were hitting year 3, year 4. You could start to feel a little bit of momentum. You know, we weren't looking for as much work. We were busy more than we were not busy. And now we have to turn work away. So it's kind of...
How often?
How often?
Yeah. How often does that happen?
Well, it's kind of out of choice, you know, for me now. It's like whether I align with the project, whether the brief... Well, you know, I can only... You know, I do 80 to 100 logos a year. I physically cannot do any more than that. That is like full blown capacity for me. I physically can. I've tried. I physically cannot do any more than that.
It's awesome to know that limit, like to quantify that limit.
It is, but it's also, you know, it's something that is not sustainable as well. You know, so my prices keep rising, but you know, so this year I'll probably look to do 50 logos, you know, but make just as much money, if not more, due to the price increase. So it's kind of, you know, and obviously I'm growing, you know, reputation's growing, bigger paying clients are coming. My rates are rising with the tide, you know, book out, award winning, whatever you want to call it, bearded twat now. So, you know, it's kind of just rolling with that. And yeah, but this year I'm going to be really focusing on releasing some of the client tension, but growing other people's businesses. So I'm building a logo course. I'm doing group coaching. You know, I've got all these things that I want to do, like my side hustle. I'm trying to make my half hustle. Do you know what I mean? So I'm going to always have logo design, but I want to combine that with helping other logo designers and other creatives, like help them on their journey, because that's something that's, like, as you'll know through my content, is like quite dear to me, is giving back to the industry. So I'm excited about that this year.
Right. And part of it, honestly, again, thanks again for hopping on, you know. I feel like I'm already gaining a lot of information that I'm sure would be helpful to other people. Like a lot of people are starting off, you know, especially maybe if they're right out of college or right out of high school even, or maybe they're doing tattoos and they're thinking about moving into digital or graphic design, moving away from that. How scary is it, do you think, for somebody who's already doing tattoos to move into digital work? Or how often are tattoo parlors, you know, probably already doing that, you know? I mean,
I think it's, you know, people talk about following your passion, don't they? But, you know, I've got this kind of thing, you know, if I followed my passion when I was young, I would have been a beer drinking, whiskey drinking rugby player. Do you know what I mean? So those would have been, those were my passions. Do you know what I mean? So I think, you know, through like perseverance and patience, you know, again, I think your passions start to come to the surface, you know, because the more time you put into something, the more you love it. That's just human nature. So your passions develop over time, and your passions will change over time. You know, my passion for the last 5 years has been logo design, brand identity. that's still going to be a part of my passion, but my passion is now evolving to give back to that industry, the logo design and brand identity. That's kind of my evolving passion. Brand is all still within my mission of logos and brand identity, but it's a slight twist, helping other people make money and build businesses and, help clients, realize their dreams through brand identity and logo design. So, I think the passion's a funny word. I don't think you should necessarily find your passion. I think you should be patient until it kind of starts to reward you and find you a bit like I said with logo design. Passions are, I think it's bollocks, excuse my French, to kind of to tell a teenager or young 20-year-old or whatever it is to follow your passion, because you might not know what it is yet. It's still very young. The world is changing quickly, and the gone are the days where we used to live to 65 and retire at 40, 45 or whatever it was. We're going to be working a long, long time. So if you're 20 and don't have a clue, you've got at least another 40 years to figure out what you've got, what you can do. I know Gary V's a big believer in this. 20 to 30 should be exploration, should be enjoyment, trying stuff. And then when your 30s kick in, that's when you can start to settle down and have a think. But you've still got loads of time then. Do you know what I mean? I didn't start Baby Giant until 27. I didn't really make any money until 32. So, it's just about sticking at something. And I think that's the difference. The problem now is it's like this constant magpie, like shiny object syndrome, where cool, I'm going to do this. Oh, I'm no good at it. I'm not making any money. Well, I'm going to go over here. Oh, this is cool. I'm doing really nicely, but I'm not making any money. Oh, I'm going to go over here. And I think that's the problem. Nobody's career, the definition of a career is something over a prolonged amount of time. Do you know what I mean? So all these people like the Draplins, the Chris Does, me to a certain extent, not quite as legendary as them, but I've been in it for a couple of decades now. We've been doing this for decades, not a couple of months or a couple of years, decades. And I think that's what people struggle with, is like the comparison stuff. Oh, look at what these guys are doing. But when I started graphic design when you couldn't even walk. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, or talk. So I think it's just that kind of idea. You've got to give stuff time, because it will reward you eventually if you stick at it.
Right. And when you were building up, did you ever pitch to clients, or did you always wait for work to get to you?
In the beginning stages, we would pitch a lot of stuff. Obviously, we'd be invited to pitch for big projects like web projects, brand identity projects, which included web design and then marketing for that year or whatever. But we chose, because obviously we kind of worked from home. We were remote. We never had like a big outlay with reference to like a premises or anything like that. We had the internet, so we didn't need, if you wanted to go for a meeting, you could just go and hire a room somewhere and have a meeting. So we were kind of doing that kind of COVID working from home stuff before it was cool. Do you know what I mean? So that kind of helped us. So when it came to pitching, we won a couple of projects, but the process is so arduous. You might spend a week, 2 weeks putting a load of work together and a load of effort together for them to say no. Or what usually happens, steal all the ideas from all the agencies and get somebody to do it in-house. That's what usually happens. So we decided quite early on not to pitch for any work. If they wanted to work for us, or work with us, sorry, we would happily work with them, but we didn't want to just be another number. Because that's what we experienced anyway. It's not the same for every agency. It's just something that we decided not to do. And because our overheads weren't massive, we could survive. We could survive on the little mum and pop shops, the odd website here, the odd brand project here, the odd bit of film work, and soon what happened is we got in with a lot of, young marketing agencies, and they would farm out their stuff to Baby Giant. Awesome. As the creative agency. So we weren't just sitting on our ass. We were being quite clever with the people we were speaking to and engaging with, and partnering with printers, partnering with marketing agencies, film studios, and all the rest of it, because all these people need creative people around them. So yeah, it was a lot of hustle in the beginning, but like not just hustle for the sake of it. It was kind of thought out, methodical. This is where the work is. How can we get there? So planning, lots of planning.
Hmm. Got it. No, yeah, the networking side of it, I think, is maybe some things that people often overlook. You know, they try to do all the acquisition on their own. When, like you said, like that sounds like you're working smarter, not harder.
Yeah, I mean, and what you do is, I mean, for example, any young logo designer listening should find a web guy, and partner with each other, and what happens is when he has a web project that needs a logo, he comes to you and he takes a cut. When you have a logo project that needs a web designer, you give it to him and you take a cut. You make some money as the middleman. That's what we did. We basically said whatever anybody asked us in the beginning, we said yes. Like even if we had no clue what to do, we would say yes and either find somebody to do it or figure it out.
Yeah,
So,
it's a lot easier now with YouTube being such a huge tool for so many things.
Exactly. Yeah, we didn't have the luxury. I think YouTube was definitely around, but wasn't really as
so
big.
Many channels.
Oh yeah, crikey, yeah.
Helpful. Everybody's happy to help. And that's something that I've definitely learned about. And I think it's one of the things that's been the most helpful for me personally is learning to reach out and ask for help, which is something that I was terrible at first. I hated asking for help. I still am frightened by it oftentimes. But I think that's it goes back to networking is reaching out and being open to offering if you have anything to offer and to ask questions when to avoid the mistakes that maybe you won't have to make.
Oh, 100%. I mean, yeah, you have to. I mean, asking for help is tough, and also asking for help as a creative, I think, slightly tough, is because we're quite protective. As beasts and as humans, the creative world is quite protective and maybe a little bit introvert and a little bit shy, as people, because it's all in here. It's all in here. It's like our life, our creativity, what we put out into the world. I mean, everything I put out into the world, I have an emotional attachment to, and to get other people involved who don't quite understand that is sometimes a little bit crazy. But yeah, networking, you won't get anywhere without it, unfortunately. Business is built on networks. So because that's the other thing, it's not just enough to be a really good logo designer. If you're crap at marketing and crap at business, you're going to fail. You have to have that business acumen or nous. And it can be learned. You're not going to learn it sitting on Instagram doing nothing, but you can read books. You can go to watch seminars, webinars, go to expos. All this stuff can be learned, but it's so important. Marketing, for sure.
Are there some books that helped you learn marketing or how to brand yourself, or those kind of things? Well, when you
were, anything like David Airy was very good. Anything with his stuff. I mean, there's lots of like business books which are pretty good. Let me see if I haven't got them all on my bookshelf. But like Blair Enns, like the Win Without Pitching Manifesto was a fantastic, considering we were talking about pitching, that's a fantastic book. But also, I mean, the thing that especially with the birth of Instagram and social media and how easy it is how accessible people are. You can go and follow Gary Vee for free. You can go and follow Chris Do. You can go follow Draplin. You can watch their YouTube channels all for free. All it takes is effort. You don't necessarily have to read a book. You can just be in this person's world and follow them and listen, make notes, what works, what makes them different. That's what I did. I just followed loads of people who I admired and was just like, what makes them different? What sets them apart? How can I create that for me in my own way? And like I said, you can sit and watch Gary Vee's reels. You can sit and watch the Future's YouTube. and just absorb stuff for free. It's bonkers. It's free. It's absolute madness.
Gary Vee's huge into, really bullish on NFTs lately.
Yeah, he is.
Have you looked into that?
Yeah, don't listen to him. Don't follow him if you don't like NFTs. But
have you looked into that yourself at all?
I'm getting coaching. Yeah, I'm being coached on crypto and NFTs at the moment because I don't. It seems crazy, but I don't have the time to invest to learn blindly. I read a bit, I watch a few videos, but I've got a friend, Scotty Russell, who's been bang into it since not his birth, but he's been into it since 2017. So he was kind of a fairly early adopter in kind of Bitcoin, crypto, and he has a lot of knowledge, and I pay him for his knowledge because he cuts away all the crap and gives me all the good stuff. But that's like, I've got a business coach, I've got a crypto coach, I have counseling, all these things are so important for me because they help me, I run businesses, but I have a business coach, there's so much, there's so much to learn. And, if you ever think that you know it all, then you're in trouble. That's the thing. I'm always learning, always like really curious about, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? What's this person doing? And it's bonkers when you kind of release a little bit of that, what I would call ego, or the arrogance, and think, I know everything. As soon as you let these people in, like I learn more from my business coach than I know, like in a week, than I known for like a decade. Do you know what I mean? So paying for that is integral for growth as well.
I had another question kind of based off of some of your YouTube content. You started talking about how you like life to be simple, and that you apply that to a lot of your logo work as well.
Yeah.
And one of your you talked about some of your habits to make your life simple. Like what do you think are maybe a few habits that people could maybe shape for what fits in their lifestyle, but, habits that might be worth trying out that might lead to success either in a mindset space or in their business?
I mean, the biggest thing, or the biggest, not necessarily habit, but routine. Because routine tends to lead on to a set of good habits. So if you can nail your routine, I think you're onto a winner. And to survive in a career, you need a routine. So, for example, I get Monday to Friday. In fact, every day I get up at the same time. I might go to bed slightly differently on the weekend if I'm out with friends or whatever, but it's up at the same time, go to work at the same time, finish work at the same time, go to bed at the same time. And obviously in between that, there's other you break down your day into other sets of good habits. Like, I don't drink anymore. I eat pretty healthy. I exercise a lot. All of these things compound into a healthy James and a healthy brain, which allows him to keep creating constantly all day, every day. If I was getting up smashed like I was 3-5 years ago, I've only been kind of sober for about 6 months now, but I don't know how I survived. I was drinking too much, and like basically working hungover, and all of these kind of, I'm not saying to people just stop drinking. That's not what it's about at all. But kind of having that routine, and the reason routine is so important is like, let's break down my day. I'm kind of up at 5:30, kind of 6 o'clock. I go into work at 8:30. So there's 2 hours there, 2.5 hours, 3 hours, which are mine. So before I go to work, I've got 3 hours or 2.5, whatever it is. I read, I walk my dog, I have a nice shower, nice coffee. I say walk the dog with my wife. So that's 2 hours before I even start the day, work day. I've got 2 hours to myself, which also means by the time I get to work, I'm awake. So I'm not waking up at 5 to 8, stumbling into work and then spending 2 hours trying to wake up. I'll then work from 8:30 till 6 every single day. If I haven't finished all my jobs by 6 o'clock, I'll just put them on to the next day. I'm not going to bust a gut trying to crank it out until midnight because that will ruin my next day. And then basically I finish at 6, I got supper, I might hang out with the wifey or some mates or whatever it is. And then I go to bed, 10 o'clock, I'm asleep. Same every single day definitely for the last few years, I've been doing that. But obviously now with the added not drinking, the kind of like my mind's clearer, my focus is clearer, my productivity's up and everything. But that all happened, funny, probably the kind of going sober thing happened because of my routine. I was like doing all these things and I was still kind of, limping a bit. It's like, what's going on? I was just drinking too much, basically. It's my addictive personality. It's not good for drugs or alcohol. So I've had to quit those. But yeah, routine is the one necessity. Like, so for example, I'll break that down very quickly. Even when Baby Giant started, we had no work. We would still go to work at 9 and finish at 5. Whatever, even if that was to work on our own stuff, create anything. We were always kind of online working 9 to 5. And what that meant is that when we did get busy, it was easy to work a day or a full day's work. I think what happens is, especially in the early stages, designers might have no work for 4 days and then a lot of work for 2 days. Now do bugger all for 4 days, work for 2 days, and just be like stressed, like tired, because they haven't practiced. They haven't kind of got that kind of repetition or muscle memory of like working. This is what we do. We do 8 hours. We do 8 hours. So when they have to do 8 hours randomly, it's like, oh my God, I feel like I've worked a week. It's like, no, you haven't, mate. You've worked half a day. So let's get on with it. So I think that's the power of routine, is it sets you up for the future, but also allows your brain to know, right, this is when I'm on work and this is when I'm off work. And that is massive.
Definitely stressing routine. I also working on it myself. I had 2 dogs, and I think that's kind of part of what set me in the direction of routine is like, I got to make sure that they go out and like use the restroom when they need to. They gotta,
your dog's got to have a shit, mate. Yeah, that's it.
And like, if I don't want to have to clean it up, I got to stick to that routine. And that's what led to.
But it's also important for the dogs, and also also for you, fresh air, exercise.
That's been my favorite thing for sure about having a dog. I realized I'm spending way more time outside and I'm going on long walks, and it's awesome.
Love that. Yeah. Well, walking's my new thing. I love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I think that's all the questions that I had, and even more than that. Thanks again so much. Was there any last tips you think you'd like to share for anybody who's starting off doing logo work right now and maybe struggling to find clients or et cetera?
I'll give one piece of advice that doesn't matter whether you're a logo designer or not. And it's like, I've got it engraved on my ring. I've got it engraved on my pencils and my pens. And it's just the phrase, effort is free. That is something that I live daily by. I'm not going to, the effort I put in is mine. I'm the only one who can do that. Nobody's going to do it for me. And ultimately, it is free. So yeah, that's it. Effort is free. Live with that.
That's awesome. That's a great last tip. Thank you so much, and thanks again for making the time to meet up with me. I know we went over by a little bit, and I really appreciate it. It's awesome meeting you in person. It feels like I knew you, but you didn't know me.
That's everybody knows me. It's great. That's the kind of blessing and a curse, isn't it? But no, thanks for reaching out. And like I said, I mean, I'm always happy to chat the shit with somebody. So thanks for reaching out.
Cheers. Take it easy.
Cheers, mate. Bye.